Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Port Angeles, and our Talk Thursday. So glad to have us all here together again on this beautiful fall evening. My talk title this week is Prayerful. I'm still full of it. This is the month of fullness. And so I'm speaking about prayer. And what I recognized as I was creating the talk and the idea for the talk and the name of the talk came up, I recognized how prayer has shifted dramatically for me in my life. When I was younger, in my growing up time, I wasn't raised in any particular philosophy or faith tradition, and I had this idea about prayer and what it was. It felt formulaic, it felt obligatory, and beseeching, pleading and begging for God to save me or do something for me. Or not me necessarily, because I wasn't praying, but for those prayer experiences that I saw at other friends' churches or on TV or anywhere in the world, prayer never felt comfortable in my mouth. That's about the best way I can explain that. So when I discovered this philosophy, Science of Mind and Spirit, and I started to learn about a different idea of prayer, I was so filled with gratitude in my heart, in my soul, because it was a very different idea. So what I've discovered over the years of study and classes, now almost 20 years now, I really dove into my spiritual life when I was about 35, and I've been studying ever since. Now I'm 55. So for me, prayer is not supplication to something outside of us. It's not seeking something outside of our own experience or outside of us to ask for. It's not beseeching or bargaining. A lot of people have said there are no atheists in a foxhole. Oh, please God, if you save me, I'll commit my life to you, and I'll give all my money to the church if you'll just, not let me die. And I've had moments where that has been a little bit more of what my prayer sounded like. If you pull me out of this, whatever this is, I'll give myself over to you. That is not what the prayer that I have come to love is about. Prayer for me, and what I want to talk about tonight, is where I move from my belief in something limited to a belief or an understanding or an acceptance of something that is unlimited. The prayer "Help me in my unbelief" is about the deepest beseeching prayer I might ever do. And I'll talk about that a little more. When we pray, a question to ask is, what are we praying for? Are we praying for something that is missing? Or are we praying for something we think we need? Are we praying to be saved or rescued? That's praying for something. And that feels like it's outside of us. Something to come in, ride in on the white horse, and pull us out of whatever the struggle seems to be. My question, and what I've come to discover through reading and study, is instead of praying for something, it's what are we praying from? Where are we coming from in our prayer? In our affirmation of something true? Praying from a sense of there is this unlimited presence, this unlimited universe that surrounds us, infuses us, is us. This abundant, wise, loving, compassionate presence, whatever we call that, that is so full that it spills out of itself and back into itself in all of the forms that we know as reality. If I can pray from a place of fullness, then I am more to discover that I already have whatever it is that I'm praying for. Does that make sense? It's a little convoluted. Presence is ever available right where we are. Right where we are is all of this presence. It's hard to imagine that for my rational, logical mind to get a grasp on the infinite allness of presence is right here, and right here, and right here. It's right where we are. It's in every tiny atom is the fullness of presence. The power that created stars and planets is right where we are. That's kind of mind-boggling. And it's so big that it seems kind of unfathomable. How could this help me in my day-to-day living? How could understanding this, we can't possibly understand it with our human mind, but how could contemplating this help me in my day-to-day life? You know, it's great to know about the infinite allness, but how does that help me today when I'm struggling to pay my agreements, or when I feel sick, or when my marriage is falling apart? It's not. But how can this help us? We pray from an awareness of that which is already present instead of what seems to be missing. That which is already present. So if I'm not feeling abundant, if I can look at what's already present in my life that feels abundant, then I'm more likely to begin to see the abundance that is actually part of my life. I can look outside and see the bazillions of leaves and the trees and the blades of grass and the grains of sand and the people and all the multitudes of animals, and begin to see that this is an abundant universe, and because I am part of that, I must be therefore abundant. I must already be able to tap into the abundance that's already here. There's nothing missing except my awareness. That's the only thing I can do and shift, because the allness of the universe is right here, pressing up against us. My only job is to widen my view, to open my awareness to what's here. I've been reading this thing called You this week. I love this book by Ernest Holmes. It's got such great wisdom in a very digestible form. The Science of Mind textbook is wonderful. It's very dense, very, very dense material. This thing called You is a fabulous place to just open the book and see what comes up. That's where this talk came from. Open the book, see what shows up. So from this book, a quote says, always become a master of your thinking. He says, always do this with a sense of union with good. For you have not been left alone to fight a losing battle or contend against powers of evil. You have been left alone to discover your real nature. That as an individual, you may consciously unite with the law of life and the presence of good. This infinite presence so loves us that it doesn't dictate our every thought and move. It leaves us alone to discover our conscious union with life and with the law of good. It so loves us that it created this amazing mind we have, and this amazing intuitive ability within us. Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. It's the same exact idea that Ernest is talking about. You have been alone, been left alone, metaphorically, to discover all the barriers that you have created between you and your good, and then begin to let them dissolve. You don't have to push them off or break them out with a chisel, although sometimes it feels like that. But to notice them, to become aware of them. Oh, I notice where I block my good. I notice where I think it only should show up like this, and I'm missing it showing up over here, the whatever my good is. We've started this center, and right now we are small but mighty. And I got a wonderful email forwarded to me from my mom via the minister's listserv that referenced when Ernest Holmes first began creating and studying, well, he didn't study it because he created it, he intuited it and let it come flowing out from him, this science of mind and spirit. When he was first making this his life's work, there was no one. He was alone. And he tried to get people to come and hear him, and nothing was happening for a long time. And then one day, he was someplace and he was holding a book by another author, by Thomas Troward, who he had studied extensively. Someone saw him with that book. He loaned it to them. They read it, and they said, would you come to my house and talk about this material with some people? And he did. And from that little seed, a gigantic ministry unfolded. And I can imagine Ernest sitting in his house, wanting to talk about this wisdom that was coming through him with nobody around, nobody present, and feeling defeated, and yet, continuing forward, continuing with his vision, saying that if I'm going to talk about this material, I have to stay with this material. I can't just give it up at the first signs of it's not working the way I thought it would. To stay in principle, not in fear. Prayer for me is aligning with the good that's already present, aligning myself with the good that's already present. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Meditation is a great way to align with that which is already present, to begin to open up to a broader view. When we meditate or chant, there are a lot of practices, I think, in life, artistic endeavors, that help us do what I call finding our center point, finding that calm, still place that's within all of us, that's available to each of us. That's when we begin to align to something bigger than our limited thinking, our own stories about how life might be looking. We can also take inventory of our thinking. As Ernest says, we can become a master of our own thinking. We have to be willing to take inventory of our thinking. The other day I got up and my back was sore. And I got to decide if I was going to focus on my sore back, which is, 2% of me, or am I going to focus on the 98% of me that feels just fine? Do I focus on the hurt, or do I focus on the health? And this goes for anything. I was with someone today who said, I have no money. She's got a fixed income. She gets a check at the beginning of the month. Now it's, towards the end of the month. She had some unexpected things. And she says, I have no money. I said, you don't even have a penny? She said, no, I don't even have a penny. So I reached in I happened to be in the car, and I reached in my little coin thing in my car, and I pulled out a penny, and I said, here, now you have a penny. And she has a home. She has a roof over her head. She has a bed. She has food in her refrigerator to last her to the end of the month. She has nice, clean clothes. She has a spectacular view where she lives. So she's rich. She's abundant. But her mind keeps saying, I have no money. So I encourage her gently to see if she can look at it and begin to shift her thinking in a new way. Totally unfamiliar concept to say, I'm choosing to spend my money elsewhere instead of I can't do that because I'm broke. Took me a long time. Constant awareness, consistent practice, consistent catching myself when I would claim my lack instead of my good. So it's a practice, and it doesn't matter how long we've been doing it or anything. We all get opportunities to be reminded that this is a practice that is a lifetime practice. We can begin to become observers and become aware of what we're thinking and doing in our life. That's where we can make a difference. That's where we can begin to pray from. I am knowing in this very moment that I can become aware of my own thinking. I can notice where I am speaking limitation and notice where I'm speaking abundantly. I can just do that without judging or criticizing myself, but just going, wow, yeah, there it was again. There was that pattern again that I was doing, and then I can decide. Then I can choose what to do with that information. If I'm not even aware of it, I have no choice. So what are we focusing on? Are we focusing on the 2% that doesn't feel good or the 98% that feels good? That's a practice, just that little bit. I notice that often I think I know how my good is supposed to show up. It might be for you too, but maybe not. Maybe I'm the only one. I get an idea about something that's going to happen or how I want to do this or that or the other thing. And I think I know how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to show up. And often it is completely different. When I can allow my good to show up however it will, it does. When I think it only gets to come through this narrow little funnel, the universe is pouring a lot of good my way, but that's a narrow target to try to hit. So my job is to continually open up to what's another possibility, what's another way, what's another way, what's another way. Continue to stick with, despite all odds, the intention, the vision, the whatever it is that is pulling us forward, and let the how be in the hands of this infinite presence that knows infinitely more than I do. I know a lot. I'm very smart. I'm extremely creative and clever, as you are. And I'm limited because I'm human. And yet I can connect with that infinite presence that is also me, is also you. We can connect with that and discover something else. Discover, oh, that's how my good is showing up. Wow, what an awesome surprise. And as some friends of mine and I say, how usual. It's never really a surprise that our good shows up. It's just always curious the way it shows up. So are we open to receive our good in whichever way it shows up? Or does it have to come through this narrow funnel? That's a question I want to leave you with today. I also want to leave you with a little closing meditation that is from this thing called You, from Ernest Holmes. So I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. This is the kind of prayer that I feel is powerful. It's not begging or beseeching. It is speaking the capital T truth and aligning us with that. There is nothing in me that hinders the Spirit from manifesting itself through me in joy, happiness, and peace. It is the law of my life that wherever I go, I shall meet with joy, with love, friendship, gratitude, compensation, with a complete opportunity for the expression of every talent and ability I possess. Every door is open. Nothing can go forth from me but goodness, truth, love, kindness. Therefore, nothing less than goodness can come back to me. I identify myself with abundance, health, and happiness. I associate myself with the vast all. I identify myself with everything necessary to make my life complete. There is no depression, no fear, no sense of lack, insecurity, or unworthiness. I believe that God is all in all, over all, in everything that I shall ever meet. I am filled with peace and confidence. And so it is. Take a breath. Come back to the room. In our philosophy, we have a 5-step prayer. God is all there is, or presence, or spirit, or love, whatever we choose to call it. Even if you're an atheist, you can say peace is all there is, love is all there is. And I am one with that. I am one with that quality of the infinite. And here is what I know. That's number 3. Here is the truth that I know, that I claim, that we just heard about in that prayer. And I am grateful to know that truth. And I release. When I release the how. I'm very clear because I'm knowing in my own mind, I'm letting go of how my good is showing up. So I release this prayer, trusting that it will show up however it needs to show up. And I let it go. I love how simple the process is. And we can get flowery in our prayers. We can get really beautiful and lengthy. But the way we teach the kids, God is, I am too, I am, here's what I know, I am thankful, goodbye. And I love that, how simple that can be. Thank you.